Let's get started. I have water because I'm on a new journey to have as much water as possible in a day. So
That's awesome.
yeah. All right, Greg, I'm super excited to have you on. So, in your career, in your life, what would you say is the worst advice you have ever heard? Either someone gave to you personally or you've heard it from someone on the receiving end.
Worst advice that I've heard in my career. I would say one of the things that comes to mind right away is the motto of work harder. Working harder doesn't necessarily mean that you're being more successful. You have to know when to work and when not to work, and you have to know what work is right. So, in order to do it, in order to be successful, you don't have to work harder. You have to work with clarity and understanding of what the purpose and mission is of what you're trying to get accomplished. Jim Rohn used to have this saying that when you're at work, work, and when you're at home, home. Don't bring work home and don't bring fun to work. I don't necessarily agree with all of that because I think sometimes fun at work is great. But I do agree that you have to understand what work needs to come home and what work stays at work. And just too many times I hear people say work harder.
Yeah, something that I've been slowly learning is just because I think with that same mentality, I've always been like, okay, you have to, if you're interviewing for different companies or roles and you want to get to the next level or whatever it is, sometimes that next level is going to be so much more demanding than your current role or other roles. And you're just like, but and I'm speaking just for myself, but I'm so hyper focused and like, well, it's this company or it's this pay, it's this, new title. I really want that. But then like stepping back and saying like, that's what I think is successful. But then when I step back and say, well, how is that going to really fit in my life with what I'm currently needing right now in this moment? And so that's something new that I've been understanding this year that has been kind of life changing because you do hear this advice. You just have to work harder, give more to the companies. And then you're like, well, what do I need?
Yeah, I mean, I used to have this engineer work for me. He was super smart, super successful in his role, but he was very happy in his role. Every time I tried to navigate having him do something different, he would not do it. The only times I was able to get him to do things that interested him was when he would approach me with an idea. Like he wanted us to go to a 4 by 10 work day. And I said, you figure it out, you manage it, and I'll support it. And that's what he did. I realized from all the conversations I had with him was he was really happy doing what he was doing
Mhm.
because what it did for him, right? He was happy with his pay. He was happy with just doing the job he was doing because he helped others every single day be more successful. But he didn't want a promotion, he didn't want any of that other stuff. But helping others energized him during the day. And for his at home life, he enjoyed roller coaster rides. So he would
Okay.
plan out roller coaster rides throughout the year, and I'd be on Yahoo and stuff like that looking for new roller coasters, and I'd go, "Hey Jeff, did you see this roller coaster?" To help motivate him and keep him prove that I'm engaged with him as the leader.
That's awesome. It actually leads perfectly to my next question. So, what do you know now about leadership that you wish you'd known earlier in your career?
There was a point in time when chasing titles was a thing, right? And in chasing titles, and the reason people chase titles, from my opinion, is for more money, which is a great thing to do. At the same time, I think it's understanding and having clarity around who you are, what you want to do, and how do you want to help others. So just having a title doesn't necessarily mean that you're a great person, great leader. You have to understand it isn't in alignment with who I am. It isn't in alignment with my values, my integrity, and can I serve others in this role? Leadership is really about serving.
I think a lot of leaders know that. I don't know how many of them put it into action. It's really easy to post something online and say like you need to be a leader that leads and like people who are around you see you doing this work, you're all pulling the weight together. Obviously, I wasn't like in the workforce 40, 50 years ago. I'm curious to see how much that leadership style has changed from a work environment perspective.
There's a lot of dynamics in the role of a leader today that didn't exist 20 years ago. And leaders that have been around for a while, they need to navigate and understand that. One of the things that's happening now that's never happened before is 4 generations in the workforce, right? You have a generation that watched the man land on the moon, right? And then you have a generation that they start out in COVID, right? Think of all those
Yeah.
people that started working either just prior to or during COVID. They've all worked from home. They don't know anything different. That's a dynamic that leaders have to navigate and understand.
One of the interesting things, I was speaking with an acquaintance of mine. She said there was like a survey that was sent to all the employees, an internal survey, and it was really to better understand how they're feeling about the company, the basic like internal kind of survey, like how do you feel? How would you rate us? How do you feel about our hybrid policy? Things like that. And one of the things that she noted was a lot of the early professionals, right? Think since 2020 to now. They didn't feel a sense of connection and loyalty to the company. And so then that went hand in hand with, and this, again, this is just a overall survey. This doesn't mean this applies to like every single person. This is just what the results were, that because of that, they would prefer to have a more hands-on, go into the office kind of work policy. And the other folks who had been there, and again, it's not generalized, but like other people who had been there for years, way before 2020, have had experience in the office, loved the remote work, or really enjoyed the hybrid, as in not hybrid because you get to work from home one day, but hybrid because you get to work from home the majority of the time and then go into the office. And they didn't feel this disconnect between the company. They didn't feel like there was a lack of loyalty or culture. And so it is really interesting to see how, because you entered into the workforce in a specific time period, that really does impact how you feel about corporate or how you feel about your job, and even just like how you feel connected to your leaders. So it is,
Yeah,
it's
it's a great
a big,
observation.
yeah, it's a big learning.
Yes.
So you've coached many people through change, and you yourself have made some pivots in your life. What's one mindset shift that changed that for you? Like what are the things that really happen like in your mind? Like how do you navigate that?
Um, so a mind shift that happened to me many, many years ago, but it was a real eye opener. Um, I was managing a team and I was living in back home, well, not back home, back in the Boston area where I grew up. And we were having a snowstorm. The news said we're going to have a snowstorm. So the day the storm hit, I got up early, I shoveled my driveway, and I was to work on time. And one of my, um, employees, one of my teammates, but they worked for me, showed up late. And I said, "Why are you late? You knew it was going to snow. Why didn't you get up early, shovel the driveway, and get here like I did?" And he gave me a good cuss word. And then I realized that not everybody is has the same drive at certain times that I do. And I don't have the same drive as some other people during certain times. Right. So I learned that I need to navigate that with respect to being a coach and coaching clients. Um, I try and instill in the client right away that they don't need to be perfect.
Mm,
Right. You got to start where they are and help them see where they could be and navigate that growth opportunity. Um, so I let them focus and understand who they are, and then help them live the life that they really need to live. But as a coach, the one of the key ingredients of a coach that many, many, many people don't understand is that coaches help people get out of their own head. A lot of people don't believe they need coaches or don't understand the value of a coach, but athletes do. Athletes understand coaches, but a lot of people don't understand the value of a coach in their world. They think they can figure it all out. And with
mm,
that being said, having a coach, like I have a coach, I have a couple of coaches actually. but it's helping you go faster, quicker. Yeah,
Mm.
go faster, quicker.
Yeah, I think that especially we seek professionals for different aspects of our life. We can't do everything ourselves. I was having this conversation with a few people that I know during a book club, and we were talking about like how difficult it is as our parents or grandparents are getting older, specifically our grandparents at this point, and they have to go from being independent to dependent and how that brings in a lot of tension between family members. And so one of the girls was in the book club, she's like, "Well, I think that the problem is that everyone thinks that they are doing the best for their parent and it's just their specific perspective." Right? And so they're not seeing it as an let me beat you or you're wrong. They're saying like, "No, I know my parents so well. I know that this is what's going to be the best for them." And that's where the tension, hopefully, right? If we're giving everyone the benefit of the doubt, that's really where that is rooted in. And so the same, I think that same like mentality can happen in our own lives and in our own like careers or whatever we're, in like we only have our own perspective. We've only lived our own lives. It's really hard to analyze ourselves, and that's why we go like, right, it's like going into WebMD and being like, these are my symptoms, and you think you know that you can figure it out, but a coach can really help you see something that you're not seeing, right? And so I mean, I have found it beneficial, whenever we've gotten to talk through a lot of things. So where does your passion for coaching and helping others really come from, and was there a moment or a mentor that lit that spark for you?
I think coaching came to me naturally because I was in a lot of sports when I was a kid. As I mentioned earlier, right? Athletes understand what coaching is. Um, but where it came to light for me as an adult was I always helped navigate my teams, right? Whether I was the leader or an individual contributor, right? One of the things about leadership is you don't have to have a title, right? You can be a leader with being an individual contributor. And so, that being said, I guess it was in 2005. I had just moved to um, a new town, and I started to work for Zig Ziglar as a coach. And I took all that skill set and brought it back into the corporate world. There was some dynamics that just didn't work out for me to be a full time coach for Mr. Ziegler back in the day. But that really helped me with my understanding more, a better understanding of the people and how to ask really good questions to help them get out of their heads. Um, and one of the things that helped me along the way was I had a vice president when I lived in Colorado who had a coach, and that coach interviewed me about the vice president, and I'm like, I really need one of these. And so I went to the vice president. I said, "Can I get a coach?" And he encouraged it, and so that's when I learned the power of having a coach as an adult was through work.
I love that it started as like because a lot of us do start off with coaches in our teams and we're so used to it. I'm like remembering even for like elementary school starting in like a soccer team and then you have I had my tennis coach and I had my golf coach and my swimming coach and I'm just like, yeah, we do have like a lot of coaches in our life and then it kind of just like drops, right? Like
Yep.
once and you can kind of see it like, well, in college, you can kind of have some mentors-ish, right? Some professors that kind of help you, guide you, and then you get to corporate and you're like, I guess I have to figure this out on my own. Okay, let's say someone's in a rut in their career, the career-wise or personally, maybe they aren't achieving a personal goal, whatever it is. What's the first thing you tell them to do?
The first thing that I tell people to do if they feel stuck or in a rut is to stop and take us some time and quiet time and listen to themselves and listen to what's going on in their head, right? And even journal about it, write it down, get it out of their heads, um, because when they're in a rut, they're not sure where they need to go,
Yeah.
so they don't understand their vision or purpose or um, or what they're trying to get accomplished. A few years ago, when I was working on my building this coaching business, I was in a rut, and I was at a training event for Ziegler on the 10 virtues of leadership in disruptive times, and and the guy sitting next to me goes, "You're a lighthouse," and that's when it clicked. I'm like, I figured out my purpose, and my purpose seems kind of, in my mind, seems kind of extravagant, but in my heart, it hits right at home. And
Yeah.
what my purpose is I'm the lighthouse that illuminates a path for my family and my clients to release their emergency brake on life.
I
And
love
so
that.
that's where the release your emergency brake on life comes from in my coaching practice. It's to help people release and go,
Mm.
get out of that rut.
Yeah. I've been so something again, like I've been kind of I'm reading this book called The Still and Quiet Mind. It's more so like about just all those intrusive thoughts that just happen. And so like something that it talks about is just like meditating, but also what I've taken like the two of the things I've taken is like sometimes I'm never alone with my own thoughts. I am constantly listening to a podcast, music, watching TikTok videos, a show. I'm at work, I'm in meetings, or even when I'm working and I don't have a meeting, I have some sort of music on in the background. And I'm like, not, I'm never, it's never quiet. Right. And so I did this last week where I was feeling extremely overwhelmed. I was like working on something. I had music on in the background. I'm like, you know what? I like paused that and just like, even though all I could hear was like my fan going and me
Right.
typing, I'm like, that's exactly what I needed at the time. And later that day after work, I went outside and I was just like, it's summer here in Texas, so you can kind of hear the cicadas out. And so it was just, I was outside listening to the cicadas, hearing, people, cars driving by, things that like that. And I'm like, okay, I need to listen to things that aren't just on my phone. And I just need to listen to nature or just like unplug and like let my thoughts be because or else I honestly it can be such a struggle, especially when you do have, in my case, like an intrusive thought, something that may be a bit true about myself, maybe not, maybe it's not helping me in any way, but because I don't actually think through it, it kind of just lingers in the back of my mind. And so I find that like sometimes you can be in a rut in your mind of thinking, or you can be in a rut. Um, just like in personal growth, I think like career wise, it can be a little bit different. But even then, like career wise, if you think, oh, I'm always doing this thing wrong, but you're distracting yourself with just doing it, not kind of looking back at what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Where are the issues? Um, it can be difficult. So yeah, definitely like stepping back. And I love that you say like with a coach or like how you see it, you'll be able to help people just like get off that emergency brake. And I don't think people realize how refreshing that is because you've been going at it for so long, right? And so it's like, I just need to
Yes.
breathe.
Yeah. Yeah. And you hit on a good point about, getting it out of your head, right? A lot of people have beliefs because of past experiences, and they don't spend the time to understand the belief and how to analyze it and how to say, you know what, if I do this differently, I'll have a different belief. I worked for a guy that, I was challenged on my beliefs about how things should be done.
So you've led teams, right? You have coached individuals. What's the most common mistake you see people making in their careers? And what does a win actually look like for you personally?
So I think mistake that a lot of people make right now or throughout my career has been, it is what it is, right? And they live paycheck to pay. They live for the paycheck,
Mhm.
or they live for the title, but they don't have the passion behind it to make it really valuable to them, right? I got a job, I do this rather than saying this is what we do, this is how we solve problems, you know. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make, and but it's not their fault, right? They just don't know any differently at the time, right? And understanding what their purpose is versus what their team's purpose is, or mission versus the company's. You know, at the end of the day, it's in the corporate world, it's the leader's responsible for conveying the mission and the vision and the purpose and why we do what we do in this role. And and I think that, for me personally, a win is when, um, we're all working together. So I worked for a company called Sun Microsystems back in the day, and the chairman of the company, he was the CEO at the time as well, named Scott McNeely. He had this motto: "All the wood behind one arrow," which meant get everybody in alignment. This is our mission. This is our vision, and let's just drive to it.
Mm.
And back then, it was called the network is the computer. And look what we have today, right? The
Yeah.
network is the computer. So I think wins are great when you're successful at solving problems that move the customer forward as well as move the company forward.
How do you stay energized and grounded when you're constantly showing up for others?
The way I stay energized is I know that I'm helping somebody else. That's makes me always energized. On my entire career, I've always been customer facing. So, uh, helping customers be successful energized me. And so helping clients be successful energizes me. But how do I stay grounded? I stay grounded. My wife helps me stay grounded. Uh, also stay grounded by journaling and reflecting on where I'm at and what I'm doing. And when I feel out of kilter, I convey those to my coach, and then they help me ground me.
Mm.
They help me bring me back to where I'm very good about what I feel about myself.
Yeah, it's a tiered approach. It's not just like, well, I stay grounded because I I
Yeah, I
just
mean,
am.
there are days when, I'll give you an example. I was coaching this person a few weeks ago, and at the end of the coaching session, I said, "How did it go?" And he goes, "Why do you ask?" And I said, "Because I thought it was flat today. Right? I thought that, it wasn't right." And his response, so I was going out of this coaching session feeling like I failed this session. And he
Mm,
said, "No, it was a fantastic session. You asked me some questions that really I have to journal and think about and understand to help me." And I'm like, "Wow, okay."
yeah.
But
That
if he hadn't given me that information, I would have got off the call, gone through his, summary, and journaled about where I could have done better, what I could have said
mm,
differently, that kind of stuff.
that's helpful though. Just like basically tapping back into the people that whether that's personal life, professional life, like saying like, "Hey, help me better understand, like, am I am I working the way that you would like me to? Where can I improve or where?" And then it could really help our perspectives. Like I do believe our biggest enemies are ourselves, right? Like we have like
Oh,
the
yeah,
worst thoughts about ourselves. And other people are like, "Yeah, it was great." And you're just like, "Well, I totally failed that."
yeah, yeah. I was working with a client, and he's having some challenges and, family challenges.
Mhm.
And I asked him when he got home that night from work, instead of making assumptions, I asked him to ask his wife, what does she need from him? It was an eye opener for him when what she gave him for an answer.
We all need to check in. check in with ourselves, check in with people around us. What's something you've unlearned about success over the years and what replaced it?
That I don't always have to be the right answer. Just because I'm the person, I don't necessarily have to be the one with the right answer or the best answer. It's always a collaborative effort to get the really the best answers.
Mhm.
And so, when I had to learn that I'm not always right, which was a challenge for me for many years.
I think that's a challenge for a lot of people.
And the other thing is how to do recognition and accept recognition. I don't think there's enough recognition done in the workplace. Like, you know, instead, he did a great job, right? 9 out of 10 times we criticize, condemn, or complain when it should be 9 out of 10 times we acknowledge, recognize
Mm.
people for what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it actually becomes kind of difficult because there's such a lack of recognition unless it's like, either you were raised to be that way or the company really pushes it, which I think is more rare than not than it is. Then it's really hard to accept it
Hmm.
as well, right? Recognition. You're just like, you feel awkward, uncomfortable, like, do I deserve this? Or like, oh, okay, you just don't know how to respond. So I think it's like a two-way street in that sense. Like, recognize others, but also it's when someone is recognizing you, for you to disregard that as well could also make the person giving that recognition less prone to doing so because you're getting this like basically it's like put a blanket over something, right? Like you're just like just cover it up. Thank you for telling me that. Let's move on as quickly as possible. So I think it's like both learning how to do that. And I feel you. I'm the person who asks questions all the time. I tell Jonathan, my husband, that he is my human Google. Every time I have a question, I'm like, hey, why does blah, blah, blah happen? And why does blah, blah, blah do this? And I have been this way since I was a child. My parents would say that I would be in car rides and I would just ask them questions that they had no idea how to answer. And so I'm always looking for someone else to give me the answer versus me going and finding those answers. But yeah, it is, like you said, like when you're a supervisor or, a coach or whatever it is, wherever you are, if you're a parent, if you're a spouse, people will just come to you and ask you a bunch of questions, and it's okay when you don't have the answer. But it is, sometimes like, well, let's go find out together.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I just call Jonathan my human Google. I'll call him my human ChatGPT soon.
There we go.
Okay.
You'll have to change your chat GPT name to Jonathan.
Yeah.
There's a place you can do that in chat GPT. It says, who do you want me to be? Jonathan.
Yeah. How did you? I know you touched a little bit on it earlier, but it's just about beginning your coaching career. I know you talked about how it kind of started, what inspired you to start it. But what has that journey been like for you in your life?
Back in 1994, 95, somewhere around there, I took a Dale Carnegie course. And as I finished the course, back then it was a 16-week course. My boss said, wow, you've really changed. And I didn't think I changed. And I've been involved with Dale Carnegie ever since. I've been doing what they call graduate assistant. So I go in and help the uh, facilitator with the materials and getting people going. So I think that watching people grow over those years uh, has always been really extraordinary feeling of achievement, um, heartfelt, being able to impact others in subtle ways that makes them better people. And so, actually, in 2006, I went through the whole Dale Carnegie facilitation program and was certified to be a Dale Carnegie facilitator at the time. But I didn't go down that path for personal reasons. So I would say that those are the nudges that moved me forward into this role. And then the second part of it, what inspired you? And I guess as I've been watching people grow through my interactions with them at work and in life, I decided that I need to do this for other people outside of my realm of contacts. So now I'm growing my business to people that I don't even know and
Awesome.
helping them grow and be successful.
What's next for you? What is one thing you're really excited about right now?
So what's next for me is I've been working on a new program. I have several friends who have been given the opportunity to seek new employment,
Mhm.
and that's the term used these days. They don't call it reduction in force; they call it, "Hey, they've been given an opportunity to seek new employment."
Yeah.
And I worked with a person in that realm um, back in March. So I created a custom eight week. He came to me through a referral, and he was struggling with his mindset and struggling with his employment opportunities. So I created a custom 8 week program for him, and we went through it and we revised his resume, we revised his interviewing techniques, we revised everything that he did with respect to applying for the jobs that he was looking for. And at the end of the week, 8 weeks, he had a job. Actually,
Wow.
he had three job offers
It's amazing.
within that. And so I decided to create a coaching program. It's not a coaching program. It's a boot camp, and it's an 8 session boot camp on um, taking corporate professionals that are 45 and older that are in this situation and reigniting them and my leveraging the skills and technology that I have to help them navigate finding those new opportunities. And I say it's an 8 session because um, there's a sense of urgency around it.
Yeah.
So if a person wants to meet with me twice a week, then we would do that. Like I'd give them things to revise on their resumes, and I'm not doing it out of you know. Here's the thing, right? I'm not doing it out of a vacuum in my head.
Yeah.
Like I have a really good friend who that's their career is to rewrite resumes and rewrite things to make them uh, visible to companies. And so I leverage her skills and her techniques and her wisdom and her feedback to help navigate this for these clients. And so I think that it goes back to what we said at the very beginning, right? There's four generations in the workforce these days, right? There's myself, I'm the baby boomer, and then there's the uh, 20-year-olds, and I'm not sure what they're called exactly. Are they
Maybe
Z's
Gen
or
Z. Gen Z, yeah.
yeah, right? And in between, there's the Gen X and the I don't remember
Um,
all. There's one I'm missing.
millennials, yeah. So we have Gen Z, millennials,
That's it.
Gen X, and baby boomers.
Yeah, and we're all in this together. We
Yeah.
all have such dynamic upbringings,
Mhm.
and I don't mean it from a family perspective. I mean it from a life perspective.
Yeah. Mhm.
You know,
Different ways we grew up, different ways we all entered the workforce,
yeah. I mean,
different world events that shaped us.
I had a black and white TV. People are
Yeah.
like, "What's that?" You know?
I'm really grateful for you in this conversation. I think especially because, gosh, I feel like a lot of us have defined what success looks like. And just based on like it is the, successful in corporate would be like being an executive, or and there's nothing wrong with aiming to be an executive, but that's not the only path to success. And I think that really it is defined by like what are the things that you value in your life? What do you personally need? And how do you best get there? And there are going to be times there's like life is just a roller coaster. I was reading this meme to Jonathan and I'm like, growing up, we would always hear our parents say, if it's not one thing, it's another. And then we became adults. And then we're like, oh, yeah. If it's not one thing breaking down, something else is happening with someone else or whatever it is. And it's like, yeah, it's like a never ending cycle. You have to find pockets of peace. And you have to have peace within those like cycles or challenges. But it's so funny. So yeah, definitely like there isn't like a straight edge course to this is what success is, and everyone needs to be, chief marketing officer by age 45. If not, you're not
Right.
successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was times in my career where I was on that success ride of moving up the corporate ladder, and be frank, some days I'm jealous. Right? I have a really good friend who was a peer of mine back in the day, and she runs a multi-billion-dollar corporation now, and I'm like, you know. But at the same time, you know, I don't know how her family life was during that time, right?
Mhm.
I mean, everything comes back eventually, right? If you, it's what do you sacrifice to get what you want,
Yeah.
and that's a great thing because one of the things I talk to clients about is legacy, right? And asking them to write their eulogy.
Mm.
And every once in a while, I'll get a client. They'll say, "Well, my legacy is my money,"
Mm.
and I'm like, "So, how many people would come into your funeral? One,
Yeah.
right? Or or the people that get the money from the you know from you, is that the people that you want at your funeral, or
Mm.
do you want to impact a lot of people and have a huge funeral, or do you want to impact one and have one person there?"
Yeah.
You know, it's
It's
understanding the priorities and clarity and purpose of who you are as a person.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite questions. It really stuck with me when we were doing ours. It's like, what how do you basically want to be remembered when you're not here anymore? Well, I want them to, remember as someone who was joyful or, was graceful towards them and was fun and was the aunt that was down to do all of the adventures with my nephews and nieces. On a side note, because I know I asked you what's exciting and what's the new thing that you're going to be working on in the future. Something that we've talked about really, I think this was maybe a year ago, but Jonathan and I finally took the leap to purchase our espresso machine to start our coffee cart. Success looks like whatever you think it should look like, right? For us, that's our success right now, and we've even planned out like what does failure look like in this venture and what's the worst case scenario, and we were comfortable with that worst case scenario. And so we're even if we lose in our perspective of what it should be like, we're comfortable with that.
And that takes a lot of courage to go through all that and
Yeah.
have the conversation and discuss it.